people trick people. When you say pick a hand, the bigger one might be the one that has the one. Like if there's a marble, it might be a big marble, and it might make your hand get bigger. They might pick it, and you might be right. Which one? I feel like none of them. Ta-da! I knew it! My beautiful
All right, let's go. Welcome to Cordkillers, our mission to report the intel from the front lines of the cord cutting revolution so that you can watch what you want, when you want, where you want, on any device you want. I'm Tom Merritt, and that is the father of those adorable girls in the pre-roll, Brian Brushwood.
I resent that, sir. That was definitely Brian Brushwood. He was definitely doing an actual episode of Scam School. That was a preview exclusive.
No, if that was Brian Brushwood, Brian, then he would have had the signature Brian Brushwood hat with the Merritt Militia badge on it.
Well, he did. That's exactly what he was wearing, and then it fell off at the end when they were hugging at the end. Look, you got to go back. It's like the Zapruder film. You got to watch it again.
Corrected. That was absolutely Brian Brushwood then.
Hey, man, how you doing, Tom?
Good, man. I'm in New York City.
Holy cow, I'm in Austin, Texas. It's like why can't we be normal ever? Like, all of a sudden, I'm home and you're on the road. What's up with this? There has to be somebody.
Wife's out here. She's a migrant worker for YouTube, and so I came out to visit her while she swings her pickaxe in the YouTube mines.
Right on, but in the meantime, tell me you at least managed to fish us up an exceptional guest while you were out there in New York.
Well, it's a small town. You know, so everybody knows each other, and I just let people know, hey, I'm coming to your burg. Anybody want to be on Cordkillers? And Derek Chen showed up.
What? Derek Chen? Where is he? Yay, Derek Chen! Woo!
Yeah, just saw that ad up. It's like, hey, why not join?
Right on, man. Dude, thank you so much for joining us, buddy.
Derek Chen, if you haven't seen him on the show before, is an ad man. And he sends us amazing emails regularly explaining, like, this is what's really going on in the advertising world with the way stuff happens there. So thank you for coming.
I'm glad to. I mean, you know, when you're both the problem and hopefully the solution of all advertising issues out there, you know, I try to do my best to dispel rumors and you know.
Well, you do a good job.
Make the world a better place.
You want what we want. But you also know, like, why the machine works the way the machine does. That's a valuable insight.
You know, it's hard, though, because I am part of that system. And it's like, you know, you'll get offers like, oh, we have these new ads that get right in front of it, interrupt their viewing experience, but 100% engagement.
I take it back. Evil!
You don't like 7 Hulu ads in a row?
I hear they're going to try to cut that back.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we have a perfect story for Derek and our primary target, so let's get right to it. Last Friday, Nielsen announced quietly, they tried to do it on Friday so no one would notice, that they'd accidentally overestimated live plus same-day ratings since, I don't know, at least March.
I'm sorry, Tom, that sort of blew right past me. I wasn't quite ready for that. It sounded like you said that Nielsen, their only job being, of course, to count numbers accurately, kind of confessed for half a year they've been counting numbers incorrectly.
Yeah, since March.
More than half a year. Pretty much all their numbers are wrong, give or take.
Okay, the data represents between 0.1% and 0.25% of all viewing minutes that they credit nationally, according to a spokesperson. And they say in the vast majority of cases, the impact is small. In a handful of cases, the impact is more significant. Derek, you've looked into this.
Yeah.
You're a guy whose industry depends on these numbers being right. To know that you're getting what you paid for. How bad is it?
I mean, it's kind of a tricky situation because they did mess up. The way that they've at least described the situation right now, it doesn't seem like it was a huge error to what you just said, Tom. It seems like the only network that was really affected was ABC during their fall lineup. On top of that, the discrepancy seems to be minor at this point right now. So in terms of, you know, how big of an issue that is, it's not a big issue. I think the bigger wider question that everyone's asking is obviously when you're stuck with this overriding, you know, this large company that owns the space, and all you can do is rely on them. Is that an issue? I think that's the bigger issues when the industry relies on this one company and there's no other relevant competitors out there. what do you do if there's going to be a bigger issue? So I think that's a question that advertisers are going to ask. And it's weird because like there's this love-hate thing with Nielsen because obviously all the advertisers depend on Nielsen. And it's really still, despite other attempts of other companies come in, broadcast TV, cable TV still rely on their numbers. So at this point, you're going to, I mean, I think advertisers are going to use that as a way to really be harsh on them, maybe negotiate lower rates because obviously you have to pay for Nielsen subscriptions and everything like that. And there are some ad companies that are trying to promote their own measuring services, but I think we're not going to see anything in the long term, at least in the short term, change. But in terms of the grand scheme of things, again, it's a minor thing on our day to day, but it does bring back that question: what do you do with a monopoly, pretty much in this space?
Well, and I guess if we were going to do our best to generously call Nielsen anything other than a monopoly, what are some of the other alternatives? Like if you're a company that wants to get proper metrics and understand the level of your reach, if not Nielsen, then who? Like if the solution is, at least a duopoly, if not an actual free market competition, what are our greatest hopes in that regard?
I mean, I think that's the hard part because like you have other companies like Comscore, for example, that's out there, but their strength is really more in the digital space. So a lot of the numbers that like I look to Comscore more when I'm looking up web traffic as opposed to TV, just because of the nature of how TV is, where at least right now with Nielsen, they literally have physical devices, in certain households. It makes it a lot easier for them to get set up. It's one of those things where it's hard for a company to start setting up devices, working with the networks and getting that information in. So just even the nature of how TV works, I think it reflects why it's that difficult for someone to come in.
Wasn't this supposed to just all go away? I mean, we have the internet, right? You can track everything. You know exactly what everyone has done for everything. So won't Nielsen just die on the vine someday?
I think that was always the hope, I think, from a lot of the new media outlets out there. But, the thing is, because most of our ad dollars are still geared towards TV. I mean, it is really hard to get that out. I mean, it's like what we talk about with Time Warner and Comcast. We're probably not going to see them go away anytime soon, despite the way media is changing, despite the way that we're consuming things. The same thing with advertising. You're not going to necessarily see Nielsen change. They might evolve over time, and as we transition over media, you might see that. But
the main question I have is, will we continue to need representative samples, though? Will we tend to have this like 5,000 Nielsen families determine the ratings for the entire United States, which is actually can be statistically significant. A lot of people pick on it because they think, oh, that's not enough, but it can be enough. Do we need that, though, if we can collect all this other data?
It is a bit ridiculous when you think about that. We're in the 21st century. How hard is it to wire devices in? But I mean, when our regular TV boxes that we get from cable companies can barely hit the next button in time. I mean, that's part of the problem too, because you need that actual physical upgrade for everyone. I mean, in theory, it's not that hard, right? You just get everyone new DVR boxes that all records all the information, and that works perfectly. But at the same time, I don't know.
Or over the internet television, just builds it in through the stream.
Sometimes I wonder, and not to sound like a conspiracy guy myself, but sometimes I wonder, like, inefficiency sometimes is how the industry is driven. Like, you don't almost want to be too accurate with these numbers, and right now we've the industry set up in a way that it benefits everyone to have this kind of top line, small subset, and have that reflect everyone, as opposed to seeing how people are really consuming media. I think that's also a big scare, right? Because if you really, the last thing these cable and broadcast companies is really to show how people have either migrated over, or how some of these shows that maybe in real life aren't really being watched, but through the Nielsen sample are working out. I mean, that's me going a little bit on my end, but I do think that, we're not ready, or at least the industry isn't really that eager to move to the direction I think that we're all hoping for.
Can I make a very specific counterexample? I got really bummed, and this is me speaking just about myself. Like, many of you guys know that I sold a TV show and went off to California, just shot a bunch of episodes or whatever. A big part of that was by positioning myself as somebody who had a reliable brand value. And the thing that we leaned heavily on was the Clout score, because Clout did a fairly good job of monitoring engagement, regardless of how many people followed you, whether, because there are people who 2 million people follow them, but nobody engages, so it doesn't matter. And there's spam accounts and so on. So Clout was a good proxy or whatever. For whatever reason, once Clout got bought, all of a sudden it didn't matter. Like all of a sudden they decided they're a content sharing company, and all of a sudden, like, the value of the Clout score was nobody cares what your cloud score is, and to be honest, nobody should have ever cared what anyone's cloud score was. But if I'm a buyer and I'm looking at two potential hosts for a show, the guy with an 87 is certainly more likely to have a lively, engaged audience than the guy who has a 68 or whatever. Is this a case where hiccups like this give or possibly cast Nielsen into the same category as a clout situation?
I mean, I think I don't know. I think it's too early to jump into that. I think obviously there are going to be questions.
And by the way, I don't want to put you on in any position, Derek. I don't want to get you in trouble.
No. I mean,
for anything
it's funny because like the minute the story broke, I remember like I just sent an email out to the entire team, and we all turned around to the TV buyers and like, hey, did you see the story? Like, hey, what's up with that?
You guys are having a fun day, huh?
I mean, it's again, I think it's tough because Nielsen is so well established that it's going to take a lot more than this, and it's going to, it's between them continuing to lose their relevance or more gaffes like this on top of, again, building more competitive services, from other people that can replace them. I think you need both to happen before we can really talk about removing Nielsen from it. But otherwise, they are the currency that television is bought on. That's how we judge. I mean, even today, when people are reporting how Walking Dead did, it's all they're looking at the Nielsen numbers right away. And so that, I think that's the hard part. We're well too entrenched into it. So it's going to take a lot more before we really put Nielsen into doubt.
Yeah. All right. I'm in New York. One of the great baseball stories in New York history is the 1978 Yankees, Brian. 1978. The Yankees
and that's
powerful.
A weird. Why would you suddenly bring up 1978? I can't think of a single number that's relevant to, except unless you're talking about the number of bosses we have at patreon.com/Cordkillers 1,978. Do you know what this means, Tom?
We are this close.
22 people. We're 22 people away from having 2,000 bosses.
Yes, exactly. No, we love every 1,978 of you. We appreciate it. It's why we come. That's why I'm in New York and still doing the show, right? Instead of just being like, hey, sorry, Brian, I'm just out of here. Because you guys make it worthwhile. You guys are here for us, and we really appreciate it.
Dude, absolutely. That's putting it mildly. Thank you individually to all. Let's thank them individually, Tom.
Okay, let's do it right now.
Thank you, Alfred. Thank you, Adam.
Betty.
Thank you, Adrian.
Wait, I did this once already.
Oh, did you?
It takes a long time.
Okay.
I'm not saying it's a bad idea.
You just want to skip on to the next bit?
Let's go to Signals Intelligence.
Okay, that sounds good.
We'll get back to the thank yous. So Signals Intelligence, all about the streaming services you can use to watch the things you want. And Amazon, according to Wall Street Journal, is in talks with Ultraviolet. Now, if you don't know Ultraviolet, it's a DRM system, but it is meant to try to minimize the inconvenience of DRM, which I still skeptical whether that's possible.
Increasingly skeptical.
Yeah, but what they do is say, if you buy something on a DVD that's Ultraviolet supported, or if you buy it on Vudu or Target Ticket or Flickster or Cinema Now, they're all part of the Vudu universe, and so you can watch that on any of these services. So I get my Vudu stuff in Target Ticket, I get my Target Ticket in Vudu. There's some exceptions to that, which is one of the parts where it makes it a little weird. But for the most part, everything I've got in one service, I have in the other, which makes me want to buy it there because it doesn't lock me into a service. If Amazon were to join Ultraviolet and everything you bought from Amazon were now available cross-platform in this, all the videos DRM'd right now. So this is, in fact, the most convenient DRM schema out there. That could change this game. If I were Target Ticket and Vudu, I wouldn't want Amazon to do this, though.
Actually, you should, though, right? Isn't the whole point of Ultraviolet as a viable platform is that we're looking to be the ubiquitous platform to replace DVDs?
Yes, and if I'm Ultraviolet, I absolutely want Amazon on board for that reason, because people who are buying on Amazon will now be like, oh, it's Ultraviolet.
Because now all of a sudden, Target will have to serve movies to people who bought them on Amazon.
And all of a sudden, me, who's like, maybe I'll buy that on Vudu so that I have it in the Ultraviolet system, now goes, oh, I'm just buying everything on Amazon.
Yeah, what a screwed up system Ultraviolet is. It's never going to get off the ground, man. They can't. The only way this works is if you have an oligopoly level collaboration happening, and nobody's going to do that. That's not going to happen.
That's what that's actually what they're trying to do. I think you just described what, if this is true, what they're trying to convince Amazon is like, please help us create the oligopoly.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work out so hot.
Derek, what do you think?
I mean, I think, I definitely want it. It's so fragmented, and I think, one of my complaints is obviously, even just earlier today, that there's so many different services out there with specific programming, and DRM doesn't really annoy me as much if it's convenience trumps all of that, right? So if I subscribe to a service and Amazon's part of that, which would probably make me think twice about it, I think that is actually appealing. I think when it comes to consumers, they're looking for a larger shop to join in, and I think it could be a big win for them. I'm sure the other players are probably going to get, paid, or there's going to be some backdoor negotiation to make it work for everyone, but it seems too good to pass up if it's going to make all these consumers have a much more seamless experience.
Well, and I'll tell you what, also, like Amazon is in a position where it's like they can afford to easily absorb, the bandwidth costs of serving stuff that people bought on Vudu and Target and all of these other places. And again, yet it will open up to them, this whole bunch more. Essentially, this is all free advertising. Kind of makes me wonder if this wasn't their plan from the very beginning. It's like, if it's going to be a thing, let it be a thing, and then we'll swoop in and get the, unique branding opportunity to be the hero that makes it even easier to do the thing.
Yeah, we'll see if they actually join up, because there are some restrictions. There's some things you have to do to be a part of the Ultraviolet universe. But as a consumer, while I would prefer no DRM, because that doesn't punish people who are doing the right thing, and it is the most compatible cross-platform way to play your videos, Ultraviolet is the next best thing to that, and it is right now better than buying on Amazon. If I buy a video on Amazon, I can't watch it on my Android tablet. If Amazon joins the Ultraviolet marketplace, suddenly I may be able to, because there's a Vudu app for Android. And I know that the Amazon Video app's come into Android now, so that kind of makes that irrelevant. But it's more cross-platform capability. I guess that's what I'm saying. Can you imagine if Apple joined this?
Oh, no, that will never happen in a million years, right?
But if they did, just imagine how,
it'd be super rad. Wait, no, here's a more relevant question. Can you imagine how rad it would be if we could all fly? Like just lift off the ground and fly around in circles?
Question. Can you imagine how rad it would be if there was just no freaking DRM and we could play these things wherever we want and store it in the cloud ourselves in our Dropbox accounts, and we wouldn't have to worry about stupid stuff like Ultraviolet?
Now you're clearly in a flight of fantasy. What is this? Come on.
I know. All right. Sorry, Ultraviolet. I actually love you for the conditions we're in. I just wish the conditions were different.
I mean, the problem is, real quick, one more thing on Ultraviolet. Ultraviolet thinks that it's doing the right thing by obsessing about licensing rights and permissions and all that stuff. It is confusing structure for substance. At the end of the day, you can sell me on DRM because it's been done before. Steam is straight up closed system DRM, but they execute it so well, so beautifully, so easily. They do it in a way that benefits content creators, that has essentially solved the problem of PC piracy, as far as I'm concerned. It's like I never steal anymore. I used to be a bad pirate, and I never do anymore, and it's because of Steam. Now, keep in mind, structurally, Steam is everything that I am against. It is DRM. It's a locked system that I can't be logged in on the same computer or the same game on two different computers. There's a million things that objectively I should be mad at Steam at, but I'm too busy playing all the goddamn games that they make available so easily to be upset with.
Yeah, but Steam is actually even less cross-platform than Ultraviolet.
That's what I'm saying.
Ultraviolet's like, we're not even in this. Like, you can be Steam, Origin, whatever. We don't care what platform you're on. We're just going to make the stuff work in whatever universe you're in, which is even a better goal.
That's what I'm saying. Like,
it doesn't work in the universes you want, is what you're saying.
No. Like if Ultraviolet, okay, again, structure versus reality, right? The structure, in a boardroom, you're making a list of all the different cross-platform things. That sounds really good for Ultraviolet, right? You're like, well, we must be the best because we have more places you can watch us. And then meanwhile, the whole thing's a hassle. You ask anyone on the street, they have no idea what it means. I guarantee you, I could talk to 10 children in my daughter's 5th grade class, and one of them is going to say like, oh no, Minecraft, I play it on Steam. Like they know what that means. Steam is the #1 gaming platform worldwide because they're not obsessed with being labeled #1 of their category or whatever. They just quietly make it extraordinarily easy and seamless to access all of the content.
But that's not what
want.
Ultraviolet's point is. Ultraviolet's saying, we're going to make it so that you can do this. Somebody go be a Steam for video, which would be why they want Amazon in here. Because then suddenly everyone would know Ultraviolet because Amazon has the scale and recognition. I mean, Voodoo works exactly the way Steam works. I buy something on Voodoo, I can play it anywhere. I got that video with me. I can download it. I can watch it offline. It does all the things you're asking. It's just that you don't use it. And a lot of people don't either.
Agreed.
And Amazon would change that. All right, let's gear up.
No, wait, yes. Okay, fine.
No. Yellow, no, blue. Ah!
If you insist. There are 4 lights.
They're all 4 lights. Actually, there's a Verge article out today. We talked about this on Daily Tech News Show with Ayaz Akhtar. The Chris Plant guy over at The Verge wrote an article saying why a PC belongs in every living room. Essentially, making the argument that all of these Roku devices are too hard to type on. They don't have all of the apps you want. There's always one thing that one of these devices, Apple TV, Roku, even Chromecast, doesn't work with. The screen sharing can be laggy. It can be unreliable. He's like, you know what works? A computer with an HDMI out plugged into your television. He's like, you can put Plex on it. You can just increase the font. Web browsers always get the new features first for all of these systems like Hulu and Netflix, and then you just get a wireless keyboard and mouse, and that is the best set-top box.
Tom, this may surprise you to hear, but he's totally right. I have absolutely no disagreements. This is what everyone's doing. And to be honest, this was the outlier experience I had when I was in college. But then it strikes me that that was 20 years ago. And all of my peers who were also doing this 20 years ago really are and should be doing this now. The only reason to have a console, the only reason to use a video game system is if you have kids. And to be honest, I suspect it'd be better off if I just gave my kids a mouse and keyboard and set them up in the living room. There's not one aspect of this I don't agree with. Derek, am I crazy in this
No,
regard?
I definitely agree. I had that issue back when I was trying to catch up on, I think, season 2 on Arrow, and it was available on Hulu, but I don't have Hulu Plus. So I was trying to do it through my computer. I was using Chromecast I was watching on Chrome, and it was terrible because the sound was playing off my laptop, so I had to minimize that and try to do it on the screen. It was laggy, and it's a terrible experience. I just gave up on it. I just ended up waiting for it to go on Netflix. But I've always had a lot of friends who've always done that. It sounds like a great, it's a great concept. I think obviously, for example, my TV's in my bedroom, so it's a little bit more awkward to have the mouse around. But I think it's about having that good UI experience, obviously for your parents if they're doing it. Because the thing is, for me, I think a lot of more techie people, it's not that hard to pull out a keyboard, pull out a mouse. But when you're giving it to your parents and, they're just like, how do I get what I want and bring out a mouse? I think it does add a little bit of that complicated nature. And partly also we're waiting for technology to get better too, right? Ideally, as Chromecast and all these devices reduce that lag and find better ways of getting things quicker and faster, you might actually end up with some pretty top-notch devices.
I have to say, here's my question for you, Brian. Because what Ayaz and I sort of came to the conclusion on DTNS was this is the right way to do it. It is definitely the best way to do it once you get it set up. And I'd even argue most people understand a PC and mouse. So if it got clear, what they're looking at, they would know how to control it. But setting it up and maintaining it, I think, is where it would trip up a lot of people. Would you give this to your family? Would you give it to your brother? Would you give it to your mother and father? That's where I wonder, where's the line of where this actually is practical?
I'm going to say that none of that will matter. I'll say 3 years from now. And I know that sounds extremely soon, but in 3 years, the idea of a digital assistant will be so ubiquitous, so common. I think in 3 years, every single one of us will know somebody who owns a car that drives itself. I think in 3 years, we'll be so accustomed to talking to Siri, not dictating to Siri, but instead saying, hey, I want to watch that new Fargo. And Siri's like, are you talking about, again, contextual awareness, or Google Now saying like, you're talking about the TV show or the original movie? You're like, whichever one has the son of Tom Hanks in it. I think his name is Colin Hanks. And then she says, well, I found Colin Hanks is the one in Fargo. You wanted to watch it? You're like, yeah. You're like, do you want to watch the most recent episode, or do you want to start at the beginning? You're like, well, I think there was one so-and-so was telling me about that has, a gruesome rape murder in it. You're like, okay, well, I believe I found the one according to Rotten Tomatoes descriptions. Would you like to watch it? You're like, yeah, that's the one. That is a real conversation that we're going to have 3 years from now, possibly sooner.
But Chris Plant's point was, it's good now. This is
agreed.
What you're
100%.
saying is there will be a development that will make it good for everyone, and you may be right. But is it the thing now?
Absolutely. It's the closest thing to a thing now. I mean,
so you would set this up for your parents and say, here you go, Mom and Dad.
I already do set it up for my parents, man.
They have a computer hooked up to their television?
No, well, what they have is a PS4 that when I walk over and they want to watch something...
Plant is saying no game consoles, computer.
That's what I'm saying, is I walk over to their house, and when they want to see a thing, they yank out the HDMI cable from the back of the PS4 and plug it into their laptop.
Oh, they do that when you're not there?
Because they know that what's on the screen on the laptop will now be on the big screen in the living room.
And they do that when you're not there?
I ain't a cop. I ain't there all the time. I'm saying that's the solution, right? When it comes to watching a thing.
I think there's more people than you're imagining who are like, yeah, that sounds like too much work.
Okay.
Not to sound terrible, and by no means am I promoting this at all, but I do know a fair amount of people who've also hooked up their laptops or computers to the TV because it's ways to get pirated movies. There's a lot of apps, and I think that goes back to the fundamental question of Cordkillers, right? It's that it's still hard for people to find the content they want, through all these Netflix, PS4s, or whatever it is. They're still not getting all the content they want when they want it, and the computer offers that, where it is kind of the Wild West, where any app, any program works, and so easy for people to get that set up or have someone set it up for them. So that's also another issue.
That's the new challenge, is like take a Mac Mini or an Intel NUC or a Raspberry Pi or one of these like smaller computers, put Plex on it, plug it in HDMI, and see if you can convince family members that this is the way to watch their television. I think Brian's right for the most part, that like lots of people, this is definitely the right thing for them. I just don't. I can't quite get my hand on where the line is. Like because I don't think it's for everybody.
Well, the line is live TV, right? The line is.
Well, no, I'm talking about usability. Like, which kind of people are going to say, like, nah, I don't want to have to deal with this. Like, there's more. This is more. Like, all I want to do is turn on a channel and watch it. I don't want to have to use a mouse and a keyboard and a browser.
That very idea. Turn on the channel and just watch it. What are you, a toddler? You need everything spoon-fed to you? You're like, I guess it's mashed peas right now.
if you're a toddler.
Hey, now I'm tasting mashed potatoes because that's what's being shoved in my face.
I want to watch what I want, when I want, where I want, on any device I please. If I want to point a thing and turn it on, that's what I want.
I just poop my pants because I'm too young to know how to use the restroom. Thank you, NBC.
I don't know if that metaphor actually works.
What I'm saying is like, whatever. Sorry.
All right, let's take a quick break. We support the show through all kinds of stuff that we do. The Patreon is the main way, but Brian has the Scam Stuff store, and I've got ebooks that I write. I even give them away free. If you don't want to spend any money, that's fine. Go to TomMerrittBooks.com. There's some sci-fi. There's some technology history. There's even a book about my dogs as detectives.
All right, real quick, Tom. I've been meaning to talk to you about your sales model. This whole, by the way, you can have it if you don't feel like paying me for it. Yeah. It's got to go. As your agent, no. I need to tell you.
That's actually seriously, that will sell more books.
I mean, I don't hear the part where you're getting paid, though. And it seems like you should get paid.
Because somebody's going to be like, how do I get this for free? Oh, okay. I actually want to support you. Or, no, I want it on the Kindle. It's the delivery method, right? Rather than the downloading. So, because that's what I'm talking about with DRM all the time. Is like, look, people can get it for free if they want. So why make it hard?
I'll tell you why to make it hard. That's so that we could thank Tom Merritt for his hard work, and so that we could go to the
You
front
want to read it on
lines.
a Nook? You can pay. You want to read it on a Kindle? You can pay, or you can sideload.
Frontlines.
TomMerrittBooks.com. It is time for the front lines. Anyway.
Sorry, that was too easy of a segue. I didn't mean to set you up so
gaps
fast.
between radio bands, the UK is testing white space broadcasting. Ofcom has teamed up with ZSL London Zoo, the Zoological Society Zoo, for a 2-month trial to live stream footage of animals to YouTube. Asian otters, meerkats, giant Galapagos tortoises. Brian, this is your dream. Using broadcast airwaves to send internet content.
Well, technically, what I mean is like using broadcast waves to do literally anything except for the wasteful process of broadcasting. And so when you say it's sent, I assume these are like what, VHF, UHF? I assume UHF. That's where HD.
It's the gaps between the channels.
Okay, and I mean, do you believe in this?
This is a step towards proving that this can be used for data transmission. So it's the way towards that future that you want.
Extension. Congrats that they are doing this. Congrats that they're moving in the right direction. Also, I'm definitely real time, definitely looking at otters, and they really are adorable right here on the live YouTube feed. However, it just seems like this is a delightful workaround for an inherent problem. It's a great solution to a dumb problem that we have, in that we're still distributing content via the highly inefficient method of broadcast.
I was just gonna say that it's pretty ingenious that they used Asian otters, meerkats, and tortoises. Because you get opposition from some groups. So why don't we pick the cutest animals out there? And who wants to take down the otters?
Yeah, this is not a solution to the problem. This is just them testing, like, okay, if we got rid of all the broadcast channels, what would we use it for? Well, this is
Otters.
one example.
Yes, otters and tortoises and all of that. Good.
Now you're just showing that it works. It's a way to test the technology, Brian.
All right, that's fine.
It's good news for you.
No, it is. And this is what a jerk I am, is the moment I hear it, I'm just like, why don't I have even more of what I want?
Why don't I have groundhogs?
Hey, man, the Jim Henson Company's working on a Labyrinth sequel. This is Billy Crystal just quietly mentioned, like, oh, by the way, something Labyrinth is what it called. Also, there's rumors. I guess he talks about the rumor Dark Crystal 2. What are none of this is confirmed, right? This is all just rumored.
He kind of threw out there like, Labyrinth sequel out there, and then everybody was like, what? They're working on it. So apparently, yeah, there might be a sequel to Labyrinth being put together by the Jim Henson Company.
I'm in the middle of reading a book.
This reminds me of a Babe.
Recommended by. There's a book written or recommended by Andrew Main called "Make Art, Make Money," about the Jim Henson Company story. And I'm out of time. We'll talk about it some other time. But it mentions the Dark Tower and other stuff, or Dark Crystal.
Hey, guess what? Ubuntu machines now support Netflix streaming in Chrome 37. This is extra good for DIYers using Ubuntu to build their home theater PCs. Netflix on Linux, for real, now. It's real.
All right, so back to the Dark Crystal. The book is called "Make Art, Make Money." It says there's 3 phases. There's like you have to make art, then you have to make art, make money, and then you get enough money that you're able to make money, make art for you. And on the one side, everyone's familiar with the first side. A lot of people have, see people doing the other side. The tough thing is that middle part of making your art make money without looking like a sellout, and that's what this whole book is about. It's fantastic because it talks about like at the time, The Dark Crystal was the most expensive movie ever made of its variety. He went top notch. All of Sesame Street was made with craft store googly eyes. Dark Crystal was like this amazing opus, and he was spending other people's money because everyone loved him. Hey man, Amy Poehler's channel, Get Smart Girls at the Party, is joining Geek and Sundry and The Nerdist in the ever-growing legendary digital network empire. Smart Girls at the Party just got moved as I was saying that. There we go.
Yeah, because you skipped 2 stories, so I was putting it up where...
Thank you. Good job. Was created in 2008 by Poehler and her friends Meredith Walker and Amy Miles, with more than 550,000 Facebook fans and more than 5 million views on its YouTube channel. Congratulations, Amy Poehler. Again, still waiting on that phone call for whoever's spending that money at YouTube. It's Brian at Schwood.com. Very excited to launch my new property.
for me as an advertiser, the story is actually pretty good to say, and I even got the memo myself as this was happening. But you're really seeing that YouTube and all these online streaming services maturing now, right? Because like that, you're going from Swedish, teenagers playing video games to now people are taking notice that, hey, people are really consuming a lot of video online, through YouTube or wherever it is, and so you're seeing a lot of legendary studios. You're seeing a lot of these big names starting to invest into programming on the web, and I think it's a good test. I think you're going to have shows that are going to fail. You're going to have shows that do well. It's going to be interesting and to see how it progresses and how we're going to actually count that, because it's a hard thing too, because like when you have a huge celebrity doing it, you'll get good numbers, but there's still it'll be hard to see it surpass like a PewDiePie number, which for some reason still is reigns on top. And so I think it'll be an interesting way of reevaluating how we even look at programming. How much do you charge for a view, when you have someone like Amy Poehler versus just a teenager playing a video game.
Yeah, and this legendary digital networks is becoming a juggernaut here. Like, when you have Felicia Day, Chris Hardwick, now Amy Poehler, and you're in Hollywood, this is making online video, not just YouTube channels, legit.
Yeah.
Netflix's interconnection agreements are working. Verizon Fios actually topped all other major ISPs in Netflix performance in September with an average stream rate of 3.17 megabits per second. Among all sizes, Google Fiber is number one. They're considered small because they're only in a couple of cities, with 3.54 megabits per second in September. AT&T Uverse also improved after receiving interconnection payments from Netflix. Remember, we've been talking about they're coming to these interconnection agreements, and then there wasn't immediate evidence that these interconnection agreements had produced any effect. It took a while for them to get them in place. Now
was it AT&T or Netflix that all of a sudden, like, it was clear that they had pre-done all the work and just a switch was flipped?
It was Comcast and
okay.
Netflix.
And Netflix was getting a hard time because they did the agreement, but it's taken a while. But now they're number one, right? Congratulations.
Yeah. Verizon was getting that problem. Yeah.
Hey man, your background. You looked. There's something about it. Did you cut your hair?
Yeah, I did. Well, no. I mean, I trimmed my beard.
You didn't move to the other side of a continent or something, did you?
Oh, you mean those glowing lights in the window?
Yeah,
those
the bright lights in that big
but
city
those are skyscrapers.
Yeah, okay. Oh, because YouTube's opening a Create Space in New York. That's why you're there, of course. Congratulations to those guys. What do you think that boils down to in practical terms as far as what we're going to see?
There's more brand stuff. There's a brand lab because advertising, Madison Avenue, Derek, all this stuff is here in New York. So I don't know what that's going to mean. Like, you'll see more YouTubers from New York obviously getting access, but what's it going to? Are we going to see just a bunch of ads?
Well, I mean, YouTube's been investing a lot of money into premium content. I mean, even this year, in terms of what they've been pitching to advertisers, it's all about well, now they're upcharging. There's Google Premium, where they're just taking the top 2 or 5 or 10% of the content out there and now selling it on their own as premium content. And I think that's what they want to continue to encourage to do, is one, build even more content out there, but continue to raise that quality. Obviously, when they build spaces for this, it really helps them to encourage new people to come in, but also to equip them with the skills and the equipment to build this content so that they can sell it to advertisers.
Man, I'll say this much. It seems like we have a YouTube Create Space on the West Coast, right?
Yep.
Seems
and
like
one in Tokyo and one in London.
We got one on the East Coast, right?
Yep.
We have one internationally.
Yeah, Tokyo, London.
Just seems like if you're going to pick one, you should split the difference. It seems like there should be one more. I just feel like there should be one more YouTube Create Space.
Chicago?
Well, no, but it's really
who's
expensive
in Chicago?
to put
Name
them
one
in
person
cities.
who's in Chicago. Come on,
Brian,
Derek.
Maybe you could find a cheaper area outside of a city, near a
Dripping
barbecue
Springs,
place.
Texas? Is that where we're going? All right. It was a bit more specific than I was aiming for, but that's fine. I'm just saying come to Austin, YouTube.
I think you just put it at Brian's house. That's what I'm saying. All right.
Okay, got it.
Netflix users need a platinum plan if they want to stream the little 4K content that's available. It's $12 versus $9 a month for the platinum plan. Now, that gets you 4 simultaneous views, so you may want it anyway, whether you care about 4K or not. But if you have a 4K TV from like Samsung, LG, Sony, Vizio, and you got 25 megabits per second, you can pay for this plan and stream Breaking Bad, House of Cards, Ghostbusters, Ghostbusters 2, a nature documentary of unknown origin, and the Smurfs 2.
Dude,
Blacklist also coming in 4K.
it's already starting. I mean, having 3 daughters, living in Texas, wanting 4K, it's already running into moments where our 2 streams aren't enough, and there's moments like for work, I'm just like, get out of here, kids. I want to watch the Netflix. For $3 a month, come on. I think I'm in. I think I'm in.
4K
Even though
thing is almost
we
irrelevant.
don't even have a 4K TV, right? We've got everything except for the 4K TV. I kind of really want to do it.
Yeah, just for the 4 simultaneous streams. That's more compelling than the 4K right now.
Correct.
If you have streamed 4K on Netflix previously, you're grandfathered in. You don't have to pay extra, by the way.
Oof, nice.
For that person.
I can't wait for Best Buy or these retailers that now sell monster cables that help with the 4K experience.
right.
For $29.99 more.
4K certified cables. Now with more Ks. Let's move on then to what's under the surveillance sheets.
The surveillance of our surveilling.
Yes. All right, this is cool. The TV movie Star Wars Rebels, Sparks of Rebellion. It's a special episode of Star Wars Rebels, is making a primetime network debut on ABC in the United States on October 26th at 7 p.m. Fans are going to be treated to a cameo of Darth Vader, voiced by James Earl Jones. Dave Filoni told StarWars.com, "We've added a scene which gives audiences insight into the Inquisitor and includes a cameo by Darth Vader."
Okay. I'm disappointed that I just found out there's some character called the Inquisitor, and I'm double disappointed to find out that apparently this is someone we're supposed to be excited to learn about, which means that apparently I just got a spoiler of some variety, which, of course, you can't live in a spoiler-free universe. That's fine. The only reason I'm cool with it being Darth Vader is because it takes place in that timeline where Darth Vader belongs. I just really don't want to see Darth Vader in the new trilogy at all. I don't want to see Darth Vader. I know I'm going to see Darth Vader.
He's DED, right?
Well, yeah, he's dead. He's
Yeah.
dead.
Oh, spoiler.
Also, great title. Star Wars Rebels, Spark of Rebellion. That's, watch my new show, Things on Fire, The Fire of Things.
How about this? Sony Pictures Television producing a PlayStation Plus exclusive original series called Powers. We've talked about it before. It's based on the comic of the same name, follows detectives who keep an eye on people with superpowers. From the press release, what if the world was full of superheroes who aren't actually heroic at all?
Dude, take a look at this. Minor language. By minor language, I mean the F word coming in moments.
In this trailer.
There's so much cursing.
Then I lost my powers. So they gave me a badge.
So that's the deal, right?
am I
He
supposed
lost
to
his
do with that?
powers. Now he's been hired to investigate the people who do have powers, and you can only watch this on the PS4. Brian Brushwood, what do you think?
I don't know that this will cause me to buy a PS4, but man, if I had a PS4, I'd be watching the hell out of this. This looks like what Heroes should have been. It looks awesome.
Yeah, I'm in that same boat. I mean, I have a PlayStation Plus membership, so I'm really excited to see it. I don't know if that's the hard thing with Sony, I feel like, is that this is really cool, but they still aren't really there when it comes to content. Like, this is not, I don't know what they were thinking with the show, because it's like, for the people who have a PlayStation already, they're probably a Plus member already, so how many people are you actually getting to subscribe to the service? Unless this is part of a larger, this is a test plan for a whole bunch of new shows to come out, but it's great that's happening. I'm just wondering what their direction is.
This is, in every way, what our giant argument was. The last big blow-up between Tom and I was Tom had the position, forgive me if I'm not remembering this correctly, Tom, but you seem to feel like this was an effective way to reach out and get people to buy the system just to watch the content. I felt like this was nothing but fan service where nobody was going to buy one, but the people who already own one would feel real good about being in the clubhouse in there. Not from what you've seen on here, does that change your position at all?
No, I was just arguing the other side anyway. I mean, I think you can make an argument that this is meant to try to get people to buy the PS4. And I think putting this trailer out there definitely is like, hey, if you live in the PS4 world, look how cool we are. We've got this. And you got excited. Now, whether it will actually convince you to buy a PS4, apparently not.
Well, again, the question is not that I'm going to run out and buy a PS4, but if I said I'm going to spend $500 this weekend, and it'll either be on an Xbox One or a PS4, I know I'll eventually get around to getting the other, but which one am I going to get right now? This is the kind of thing where it would move
be in
that
your mind,
needle
right?
just a little bit over to one side.
Yeah,
that and the
it's one
stellar
of the
reviews that the program is getting and everything.
Hey, Derek, what have you been watching lately? You got anything?
Yeah, so I finally, one of my most frustrating experiences was trying to watch Arrow because, why would they want to put out season 2 on Netflix where I can catch up on the show before season 3 started? And, unfortunately, I had to wait all the way until the episode premiered. Fortunately, I haven't quite cut the cord yet, so I have it DVR'd while I'm like racing through to watch all my Netflix shows. So that's kind of been on the top of my queue list. On top of that, it's like Gotham.
And you're enjoying it?
I am. I'm really enjoying it. It's actually from your recommendation, but it's a really fun show. It's the fact that there's so many. Every single guest there is a huge sci-fi actor, from Battlestar Galactica to Doctor Who to whatever, and it's just amazing to see all these like sci-fi people in the same show.
We watched Transparent. We're going to talk about that in Spoiler in Time. Brian watched some Fargo. We're going to talk about that on Spoiler in Time. I watched Edge of Tomorrow on my plane ride, and I'm going to save most of what I have to say, but I liked it, Brian.
It's very good. It's the most underrated. And I'm going to say this. It might be the best movie of 2014. If there's a better one, it'll be Guardians of the Galaxy, but I don't even know that Guardians of the Galaxy is a better movie, just that it was a bigger surprise. So I suspect that Edge of Tomorrow might be the best movie. I don't know if you remember this, Tom, but Saving Private Ryan did not win Best Picture. You know what won Best Picture?
No, what won Best
The year
Picture?
that it came out, it was Shakespeare in Love, because it was the
movie.
bigger surprise. And likewise, I think people will remember Guardians of the Galaxy very fondly from this year, but I think they remember it because it was the bigger surprise. But I think at the end, Edge of Tomorrow might be the best sci-fi, certainly the best sci-fi movie. I don't know.
I personally enjoyed Guardians of the Galaxy more than Edge of Tomorrow. It was more fun, but Edge of Tomorrow was very good.
Well, and again, you're talking to a guy who's seen both of those movies, twice, 2 to 3 times each. And the mere fact that I'm like having a difficult time distinguishing, I think Edge of Tomorrow's, I think Guardians of the Galaxy is more fun. It is a bigger joy. I think I will enjoy, but again, I got kids and all that stuff. I think Edge of Tomorrow is a better movie. I think it
I've
is
seen both. Right?
I've seen both. I mean, I think the hard part too, though, I enjoyed Edge of Tomorrow a lot. It's kind of weird now that they're renaming it Live, Die, Repeat, or
they're not renaming it. Don't stop
Just the
spreading
marketing.
those lies.
But I think the hard thing, and Brian, to your point about what people remember, the problem I think with Edge of Tomorrow is people are just going to think, oh yeah, that other sci-fi weird Tom Cruise movie, because that's what we get like every other year from him too. So I think it's harder to differentiate. With Guardians of the Galaxy, it was a whole new cast. It was just something completely different. To your point about that surprise, and
Yeah.
I think that's the tough part with Tom Cruise nowadays.
Anything else you've been watching, Brian?
Not so much. It's only been 72 hours since I last hung out with you, Tom. And in that time, I have managed to catch a couple of shows. I did get the chance to hang out with Justin Robert Young. We recorded a whole bunch more for Night Attack 3, and I believe we may have the whole album in the can. We'll see right now. But in the meantime, I found myself hanging out with Tim League, the founder of the Alamo Drafthouse. And I got the chance to tell him about I told him the whole Diamond Club book experience story where we faked an erotic fiction novel. And I told him this whole story. And then as his eyes are kind of glazing over because, it's a boring, long story about how great we are for faking a novel, I got to the end part and I said, and the address of the Diamond Club is in the Mission, and I forgot exactly what it was, but it's exactly the address where they're building the draft house in San Francisco. Also got the chance to explain the summer movie draft to Tim League, and he seemed extremely interested in next year getting him, one of his buddies, and representing Team Alamo Drafthouse in the summer movie league.
Amazing.
How great would that be, right?
Would love that.
So at any rate, no, I haven't watched nearly enough, but the stuff I did watch we'll talk about during the break. But Tim Alamo, if you want to say that you think that it would be a good idea for him to join us for the summer movie draft, that'd be pretty great.
Finally, on our radar, Young Ones, indie sci-fi film set in the near future when water has become the most precious, dwindling resource on the planet, one that dictates everything from the macro of political policy to the detailed micro of interpersonal, family, and romantic relationships. It's Waterworld meets Dune.
I like this movie better when it was called Ice Pirates.
Yeah. Let's get some dispatches from the front. Start with Derek in Chattanooga. He says he's talking about Tusk and how Brian said it was a flop. He says, I don't know for sure about the financing of the movie, but if it's anything like the super groovy cartoon movie, it's probably mostly self-financed. I know that Kevin Smith is planning on touring it to theaters with live performances, so ticket sales will hopefully make up the traditional Rocket sales loss. For example, Super Groovy cost $69,000 to make and was never really released to theaters, but with the tour, it was paid for in the first few shows. And while I don't know exactly what it brought from what he said in the podcast, I believe it's something on the order of $5 million. Think of the pure profit from that with none of the marketing overhead. P.S. Brian is completely right. Mist was the steaming pile that seventh guest stepped over on its way to level awesome.
Mainly, it's the PS that got you there. Well done, sir. Anytime you say I'm right in a PS, it usually gets you to the front of the line. Also, as I understand, that's what's unusual about Tusk is that, he had with Red State, he had with Super Groovy Cartoon Movie, all of those were independent things. They never showed up in the national rankings because they were individually distributed and so on. Tusk, for whatever reason, somebody ended up betting on major widescreen distribution. That's the whole reason I brought it up is because it was released in 500 or 1,000 theaters.
Yeah.
I forget how many screens it was. So that is what is unusual about it. Hey, Brian and Tom. I'm the science teacher in Taylor whose email y'all's read on the last time Netflix. On the last episode about Netflix offering channels that streamed content at the same time, he says that he's not necessarily in love with the idea that everyone else is watching at the same time, but he says that he loves the regularity of it, and he mentions specifically that he loved the fact that when he was in college, he could come home every single day, and at 9 o'clock, you could see Star Trek: The Next Generation, and that was just part of his regular jam. And part of it that was great was that it was fed to him automatically, and he's saying that he wishes that there was some of that in the Netflix experience, and I agree. I actually, in that regard, and it is a bonus that also everyone else happened to watch it at the same time, so you have something to talk about. But I think that there is a place for curation. This is why I gave that made-up example of having a discussion with Siri and then having something recommended to you. We're headed to Jarvistown, man. It's like we're all going to have our curators that know what our friends like and say, hey, by the way, 50% of all your friends are tuning into this tonight. Do you want to tune in as well? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, well, then let's do that. And then, of course, immediately, it'll be perverted because Facebook will, charge people to jump in line or whatever.
By then, it'll be Tinder.
Tinder.
I think everything. So should we read out? Which one should we read next?
Yeah, you know what? You jump around. It's all up to you. They're all great.
Jump around. I was listening to this week's show, and I had an idea. When you discuss the number of bosses you have and how to support the show on Patreon, I think you should call the segment the TPS report for total Patreon supporters. You could do it without a fancied bumper since Tom usually leads with a factoid from the relevant year. But what will he do when you pass 2014 bosses after all? Well, because I know the future, Tony, I will just tell you what's going to happen. Or not. Maybe a running gag about new cover sheets could be in order. Just a thought. I'm also one of your bosses. Hey, thanks, boss. Good idea, boss.
Dude,
Totally
we love you, boss. Real quick, Clint Armstrong says that I've said that Brian has said that Chromecast is open. He's looked into developing for it, and he says it definitely is not. If you want to make your app Chromecastable, you need to have your application approved and your application sign-in key signed by Google, and there's no way around this. I thought I would check with you on this, Tom. I could have sworn that one of our stories was, the title was "Please hack the Chromecast." Is what Google was saying, but I may be mistaken in that regard.
It's what do you mean by open? Clint is technically right. This is definitely not an open platform the way Firefox is open source, right? I think what Google has tried to say is we would like everyone to use it. We would like everyone to hack away at it. But in the end, he's right. Google has yay or nay over what actually gets approved to use that API. They do have to approve the thing. So it's not it's open as much as they allow it to be open, and they do allow it so far to be pretty open. But it's not actually the definition of open.
Open. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Well, fair enough. Well, if you guys want to chime in, we are cordkillers@gmail.com, or you can head on over to cordkillers.com and use that little feedback option on there. But more importantly, you should reach out to the fabulous Derek Chen. Where can people find you, Derek?
You can find me on Twitter at DERICKC82. So that's where I pretty much tweet anything about advertising, gaming, or New York City life.
Thanks for coming in, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.
Thanks
That
for
was really
inviting.
fun.
This is awesome.
And thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time on Cordkillers.
So long.
Farewell. Who's Jill?